Okay, I'm going to call this meeting to order. This is the regular meeting of the Board of Directors of the Vallecitos Water District for Wednesday, October 4th at 5 p.m. Can I ask Director Martin to please lead us in the pledge?
Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have a roll call, please.
Here.
Present.
Here. Here. Okay, next is the adoption of the agenda for tonight's meeting.
So moved.
Second.
We moved in second to adopt the agenda for tonight's meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Unanimously. Public comment. Persons wishing to address a matter not on the agenda may be heard at this time. However, no action will be taken until the matter is placed on a future agenda in accordance with board policy. The board is not permitted during this time to enter into dialogue with the speaker. And I'll wait just a second here to see if we have public comment. None for this portion of the agenda. Okay, let's move on to consent calendar.
Far too gracious.
I'm sorry.
Far too gracious. Move to approve the consent calendar.
Second. It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent calendar. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Carries unanimously. Thank you. All right, action item 2.1, ordinance establishing rates, rules, and regulations for water service rate increase.
All right.
I believe that'd be,
Yeah, I'll take that.
okay.
Thank you, President Neltharp. The item before the board is the adoption of an ordinance establishing the water and sewer rates for calendar years 2018 and 2019. Public hearing to consider the rates was noticed and held on Wednesday, September 20th, in accordance with Proposition 218. And the rates and charges were developed based on a cost of service and rate structure study that was approved by the board back on June 7th. At the public hearing, the board considered written protests and heard public comments, and the board approved the proposed rate changes on a 5-0 vote. And the ordinance before the board formally establishes the new rates, and it is staff's recommendation that the board adopt the ordinance.
All right, thank you. Is there a presentation or anything? Okay.
Nope,
Any discussion?
It's just a formality, right?
it's just a formality, yeah.
No speakers?
Yes, thank you. Mr. Hunsaker for item 2.1.
Just a quick question. I raised the issue previously on rate structuring for small agriculture. At one time, there was a policy that the first 26 units of water would be charged at residential rates, and then the agricultural rate would apply after 26 units. And this is what I assume is when you have a small farm with a residence on the farm. And also what happens when there is a drought and restrictions on water use, what happens to their ability to get the ag water if they can't use the first 26 units. Thank you.
Okay, staff want to respond to that?
I'll ask Mr. Scaglione to address that.
It's still consistent with the 26. It doesn't matter the size of the agricultural, but it's just when there's combined water going through 1 meter, both domestic and agricultural, and that's the industry standards, the first 26. And we don't have a drought rate, so it's the same. So whether it's drought or non-drought, the rates will be the same.
Director Hernandez?
And relative to agriculture, though, aren't they the ones that get cut first?
Correct. If
So-
they participate in the TSAR program,
Right.
they'll get a cut. Sometimes they'll get a cut in domestic won't, or they'll always get the big cut.
Okay.
All right, thank you. All right, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the ordinance.
Move to adopt.
Second?
Been moved and second to adopt the ordinance according to staff's recommendation. Is this a roll call?
Director Hernandez?
Yes.
Director Martin?
Yes.
Director Schnell?
Yes.
Director Elfart?
Yes. right, moving on to 2.2.
If I might add, a great job by staff. Just can't commend staff enough for going through a 218 process correctly, and great job. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, item 2.2, approval of reclassification for vacant senior electrical / instrumentation technician.
Okay, I'll take that one as well. So management really routinely reviews staffing levels and job titles as our workload changes. And sometimes we identify the need for additional staffing levels or position changes. But other times we realize that the type of work and therefore the skill set have changed and we need a different classification. So the district has long held positions to help us with our electrical and instrumentation needs. But with new technology, we have a greater ability to control our processes from our remote facilities with technology. And it keeps us from having to send staff out to all these facilities to monitor and control the performance of those facilities. Recently, we've identified an opportunity to increase our efficiency and save costs. As shown on the organizational chart on page 19 of the board package, the district currently has 3 electrical and instrumentation technicians, one of those being a senior or lead position. The senior position currently performs electrical work as well as some of the work supporting our SCADA system. And SCADA stands for Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition. Our SCADA programming is currently outsourced to private contractors and not done internally. But it has become increasingly difficult and even more expensive to obtain these services in a timely fashion due to a shortage of qualified outside contracting firms. We recently had a retirement of our senior electrical and instrumentation technician, so we have an opportunity to reclassify this position to focus on the needs that we see facing the district going forward. Once filled, this position will allow us to catch up with our backlog of SCADA programming and stay on top of our SCADA workload going forward. Focusing more on SCADA activities means that position will have less time to spend on the traditional electrical activities, so we may need to outsource some of those electrical work, just like we outsource some of the SCADA work now. But we think it's a lot easier to get electricians than it is to get SCADA programmers. That's what our experience is telling us. So our recommendation is to reclassify the existing vacant senior electrical and instrumentation technician to what's called a control systems technician. The salary range for the recommended position will be the exact same as the salary range for the current position. So there'll be no impact on salaries, but we believe we will see cost savings going forward because we think it'd be easier to get electrical work contracted out and not have to pay the premium for some of the SCADA work we're having. There aren't any cost increases, but this action does require a board action because it does create a new job classification which does not exist, and that requires a board action. And in addition to approving the establishment of this position, we are recommending that the board approve the revised salary schedule to comply with the requirements of CalPERS, and Operations Manager Pedrazi is here should the board have any specific questions regarding the operational questions.
All right. Director Sano.
Thanks, General Manager Kroom. I'm looking at the pay schedule that was provided in our packet here, and I'm more accustomed to seeing like a salary range for positions. This seems like it says range, but there's just a number, just one figure there for each of these positions. While I appreciate that there's not going to be an increase in salary with this position because it's just really just a title change, is there an opportunity to hire for it at a kind of a lower level within the same range? So
Yeah.
so is there a potential for savings there? Where we're not starting somebody, this was a senior position, and we're not
Right.
starting somebody out right at the top of the range.
Yeah, so when we say a senior level position, that's like a lead. It doesn't mean they've been here a long period of time, but the incumbent who has recently retired, I believe, was at the top of the pay range. When we hire somebody new, we typically hire them near the bottom or maybe towards the middle of the pay schedule, if not near the top, unless the market dictates that you can't get anybody on board at the middle or lower end of the range. So you're right, there may be the potential to bring somebody in at a lower cost, but I didn't want to count on that. I didn't want the board to think that was a guarantee, but it is a likelihood.
Our pay schedule, so we do have ranges. When it says range 50, what does that mean?
Where are you looking?
It's on
Page 26.
Okay, page 26, yeah.
The range is in the monthly between H and I, is that correct?
Well, so the steps A through G is the monthly salary range that you see. Those are in dollars per month. That's the range that you see as you go from steps A through G. H and I are for longevity if you've been here a long time. So
I
within,
gotcha.
within step A, there's a range, within step B, there's a range, but encompassing from step A through G, it's included in those, the lower and the higher dollar amounts.
I got you. So the range, the numbers around the range is like some kind of coding or something?
Yeah, that's a human resource and payroll
Okay.
accounting.
I got you. Thanks.
Director Murphy?
I think I brought this up at the finance meeting, but I'm not sure. Why aren't we just showing it in yearly salary instead of monthly to make us just times 12 everything? I mean, is it a secret? Why aren't we just showing it the yearly salary in the yearly range rather than monthly?
Yeah, I think it's just practice. Most agencies do it in a monthly, some do it in a bi-weekly, so, but it's not uncommon to be monthly.
But doesn't yearly make more sense, easier for normal people to understand? Or is it just a shocking number and it tends to?
Well, it
make
would
people
certainly,
nervous?
it would certainly raise more eyebrows than a monthly rate, but that's not why we do it in a monthly fashion. It's just to be consistent. It's easier to compare to other agencies who are doing it in that fashion as well.
Yearly just seems to be just as easy, but I don't want to rock the boat.
I also don't think, I don't think it would be that shocking either. I'm looking at these and, you know, be compared to the private sector, it's probably kind of low.
I just don't know why we don't do it yearly. It's just like, I mean, I know it's the old way of doing it, but, you know, we're in the 21st century. We could show yearly if.
I've seen it shown both of them.
Yeah.
In a table, so, I mean, that's pretty common also.
Yeah, and so I guess it depends where you want to show it. There's numerous places. There's this salary schedule here. There's also information on the website that you could put it in a different fashion there. If the customers that you want to see it is that audience, then you may want to do it on the website one way, but for this approved salary schedule, it could be a different way.
I don't know why we don't keep it the same all the way. I don't know.
It could be.
Unless the board has a problem with it. Why aren't we showing yearly and showing it all the same? I don't know. No one has a problem.
To make the column bigger.
All right, any other discussion or questions? All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve staff recommendation for approving this change to the salary table and range. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Carries unanimously. Okay, item 2.3, approval of professional services agreement for outside services for IT management.
All right, I'll take that one as well. So similar to the previous item, staff has identified an opportunity that we can maybe save some costs and improve our efficiency of our services. The district IT supervisor, who oversees 4 staff members in the IT department, recently retired. And it does give us an opportunity to explore the expansion of an agreement that we already have with a private consulting firm that provides us with technical IT support. Their name is Ostari. They're a local San Marcos-based firm. They've been working with us for years, and they currently provide support in the areas of infrastructure monitoring, help desk support, and network support. The approach proposed in front of the board right now is a little bit unconventional. Typically, if you outsource activities, you're outsourcing the lower level activities, not the supervisorial or the higher level duties. So I would recommend that we do this on a trial basis. It's always important when you have, that you want to maintain supervision control over your employees, and you don't want to outsource that. So the proposal is all the kind of people side of things, the supervision will be retained in-house, and that instead of the former IT supervisor, her name was Carla, so instead of Carla supervising the staff, Rondi would now supervise the staff, because Carla formerly reported to Rondi. So Rondi would kind of do the day-to-day, making sure people got there on time, that they got their leave requests approved, those types of things. But the more technical aspects of what Carla did before, we would look to Astari to augment Rondi's supervisorial duties. So that's what we're looking to do, is to enter into an agreement with Astari to perform these higher level IT services. It would be on a trial basis. The agreement is proposed to be for a 1-year term. but after about 3 months into the term, we would do a check-in, and we'd make sure that the agreement is working for all parties. And by all parties, I mean Astari as well as the district. Astari may find that it's not working for them, that it's putting too much demand on their team to keeping them from doing their other duties. So we'd also check with Rondi to make sure that she's not being overburdened. Check with district staff and the management team to make sure our IT services are at the level we want them to be. At the end of that 3-month check-in, if we think it's working well, we'll keep going. If we think it needs some tweaks, we may tweak it and do another check-in another 3 months later. Or we may say this is a failed experiment, it's not working, at which point in time I may come back to the board and suggest that we fill the position that was vacated by Carla. The agreement with Astari is for $7,500 per month. That's $90,000 per year, and that entitles us to a certain amount of time. So they'll spend some of that time here in the building, and the rest of the time they'll be remote, but they'll be available via computer and via phone. The costs for the contract will be paid for from the cost savings, so we're not paying Carla, so some of that money would be going towards Astari. Based on whatever adjustments we feel need to be made, there may be some additional funds that would have to be paid. For example, we may need a little bit more of Astari's time than was originally projected, or we may need to bump up one of our current IT employees to act as a lead worker if Rondi can't handle all the duties. But even if we do that, my guess is that we'd save over $100,000 per year comparing the fully burdened salary for Carla and the outsourced services with Astari. So with that, staff recommends that the board approve this agreement with Astari, given the provisions that I've given and kind of the caveats that I have.
All right. Director Hernandez.
I would like to see a report brought back in the 90-day period so that we can analyze that, see exactly where, being a little bit of a cynic on this one, having been in this situation where you hire a consultant, you expect 100 hours a month, ends up being 120, doesn't sound like much, but the rate with which that 20 is, it's $150 an hour as opposed to 45 or 50 for the staff members. So a report back would be helpful for me, and then with the recommendation for a decision to go, stop, whatever.
Okay, yeah, we could do that. My recommendation, it wouldn't be right at the 30 or at the 90-day. We would need, after 90 days, we would evaluate it, and then
Yeah.
we'd need some time to prepare the
Perfect.
report. So it'll probably be a couple weeks
Yeah.
lagging after that.
Yeah.
Any others? Director Sewell.
Yeah. First off, I just want to thank staff for thinking outside the box and looking at innovative ways to possibly be efficient. I understand this is, or more efficient. This is going to be a trial. I'm really excited to see how the trial goes, and I'm hoping that it's successful. I did want to add for the board and public and anybody else that's interested, in addition to the roughly $100,000 a year annual savings that you're expecting by doing this, is there also like a long-term lesser pension liability because of this move as well?
Certainly, if we ended up not filling the position, all the pension obligations. But, so the number I give, the fully burdened salary for Carla includes all of her PERS contributions and those. So that's in that. I didn't give the full number, but it's in that. That led me to that $100,000 projected savings, so.
I really hope it works out. And all I can say is, having been through a number of outsourcing initiatives throughout the course of my career, is the success of this is going to be really dependent on both the vendor that we're working with, but also our internal team as well. We're going to have to be a partner with this company, not just kind of a relationship where we just dictate everything, but hopefully it's an interactive partnership and it ends up being very successful. So.
Yeah, I agree, and that's one of the reasons I'm suggesting this, is that we have this long-term relationship with Astari. If they hadn't been around, may not be doing it this way. And obviously, if Carla hadn't decided to retire, probably wouldn't be going this way. But the combination of those two things, I saw an opportunity here.
Thank you.
Director Martin.
Yeah, I would just like to applaud our general manager for some major changes in the way Vallecitos looks at things and cost savings. I think you've done a great job. 2.1, 2.2, 2.3 all say that, and I want you to know that I appreciate your efforts, and I look forward to seeing more.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to echo those comments. I think it represents creative, opportunistic, kind of out-of-the-box thinking like Director Sinella said, so.
I'd like to say this.
Applaud you on these efforts.
Thank you. It's certainly not all me. The staff has worked really hard at helping to identify these
Oh, yes.
opportunities, so.
Yeah, again, I agree, I would be a little concerned though that sooner or later they're gonna show us off. Get a robot in here.
For what, for the board? Probably do better. I heard there's a
Can't be
company-
any worse.
I heard there's a company in San Marcos making robots.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, he does.
I've got one request to speak on this item from Mr. Hunsaker.
Most of my questions were answered, but I was wondering who's responsible for upkeeping the website and keeping the billing systems going? And lastly, sometimes the biggest problems you have is when you make a software change in billing or management software. Is any of that in the offing? Thank you.
So you want me to just- Yeah, so there's no change in software proposed as part of this. It may be that when Astari comes in, they may make some recommendations for things for us to change, and that's one of the reasons we're bringing them in, is because they have experience far beyond the walls of the Vallecitos Water District service area. So I wouldn't be surprised if they make recommendations, but the agreement that's in front of you doesn't include anything like that. Regarding the website, staff continues to maintain the website, put the information on the website, make sure it's current. Astari may help us with the back end of things like the server support and that type of stuff, the hardware and things like that behind the scenes, but it's staff that will continue to maintain the website.
I just want to echo what the general manager said too. One of the benefits of outsourcing and having another set of eyes come in is that this is this company's core competency. This is what they do. We do water and wastewater. These guys do IT. So having somebody come in, a subject matter expert, not that our folks aren't, but to have somebody who has, like General Manager Truman said, the breadth and scope of experience far outside of just Vallecitos is, I think, should prove beneficial. And I would expect them, and I hope that the scope of work with them actually encourages this, but I'm hoping that they actually do come in and make some recommendations and look for ways that we can drive continuous improvement within our IT programs. Not necessarily with more personnel, but with technology and all kinds of different things.
Right. That's certainly part of the discussions that we've had with Astari relating to this.
There is one question I have, and General Manager, is not a reflection on you, it's a reflection on my training here at the district prior to you. Is there a reason why you show the complete organizational chart for one person's change? And the same, is there a reason why we do the personnel classification and monthly pay schedule for one person's change? Is there a reason all that was in our packet? There's no other changes on either one of those except for those?
Yeah, we probably could have cut down the amount of the org chart that we showed you, so it was focused on just that one. That was my fault for
Okay,
not screening
no,
it
no,
out. But to answer your second question, we are asking for the position, the new reclassification. We do have to approve the entire pay schedule to go to PERS. So they won't approve just a line item, they need to approve the pay schedule.
This
So
is
that's
the
why.
same pay schedule that we approved 2 meetings ago,
No, it's different in that it adds this one line.
except for this one line.
Yes, everything else is the exact same, we added a line.
That's my question. In the past, there could have been multiple changes and I wouldn't have known.
No, it's just that one.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
There's no further discussion. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second, third.
There's,
Been moved and seconded to adopt staff's recommendation for the approval of professional services agreement with Astari. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Carries unanimously. Diane, on 2.2, did we need a roll call on that? Okay. All right, that's, I think, all for our action items. We'll go on to reports. General Manager.
Okay, I've got a few items. So last week, I think it was last week, staff released an RFP inviting companies to submit proposals to identify solar electricity generating opportunities. The proposals are due later this month. The firms that we're selecting a proposal from, they won't be building anything. They're just going to be kind of our technical advisor to look at opportunities, to look at the cost-benefit analysis, and help the district select an option if they choose to, and move forward through the process of selecting a firm to actually construct it. So later this month, we'll get the proposals, staff will evaluate them, and we'll bring assuming, I don't know the dollar value, but assuming it'll come back to the board for approval. Let's see, one of the requirements for a water utility is that they have to clean and inspect their water storage reservoirs and tanks on a regular basis. So we're in the process of doing that right now. We have already retained a diving company that will be performing the inspection and cleaning of some of our facilities, not all of them in any given year. I think we do it take about a third of our reservoirs every year, so there's a 3-year cycle that we go to. With the exception of our larger reservoirs, we don't do them as often. But this year, we will be doing the 33 million gallon tank up in Twin Oaks, and that one's actually tomorrow. I think they're gonna be diving in that one tomorrow, and another half a dozen of the smaller reservoirs in a week or so after that. So the firm that we use, we've used them many times before, and they provide us a great level of service.
The larger one that was done last 3 years ago, when I made the mistake of wanting to climb down it, that had to be emptied. What's the reason why that had to be emptied, and the 33 million, we just send the scuba guy down, or you in a bathing suit?
That's not a pretty picture. The 40 million that you were talking about, that we took down and completely emptied, it was a 1-year warranty inspection and cleaning. The 33, we took that one down the same way 5 years ago. We have an agreement with what used to be the Department of Public Health, now the State Water Resource Control Board. Instead of every 3 years that we do the steel tanks, because they're so large and they take so much work plus loss of a lot of water to clean those, that we're doing those every 10 years. But this is an inspection, so the diver's actually going in while it's in service and videotaping the columns, that when we drain it, we can't see up 38, 40 feet up. This way, he's actually going right up to the columns and the walls and seeing if there's any. In concrete, you don't have corrosion, but you do have rebar and tie wires that are beneath the concrete. Sometimes they corrode and they pop some of the concrete loose, so that's what we're checking for.
Where does the water waste come in?
When we have to
Use the
take the
tank?
tanks down, where the outlet is, the way these large concrete tanks are, they actually taper from the center. So as you're draining them down, you get to about 3 feet, the middle actually now starts to get dry, and we're pulling so much water going into the system, we start to vortex. And so at about 3.5 feet, we actually have to shut the tank off and drain the rest, and that's over 2 million gallons that we're wasting. Plus, more water is wasted while we're washing it down. So we're in there for 4 to 5 days with fire hoses and brooms cleaning. So there's a lot of labor and a lot of water. So we were actually just starting the drought when I got that approval too.
Is there a schedule of how many we do a year, or is that?
Yes,
You have a set-
we do 5 to 6 steel tanks every year, so we have to clean them per regulations, take them down and clean them every 3 years. So that's why we do a third every year.
So kudos to Ed on that, because you could just blanket interpret that regulation and do the large tanks every 3 years, but Ed fought for the district and said, hey, can we extend that to every 10 years for the larger tanks? So he's gonna save us a lot of money, a lot of water over that period of time.
Great.
Director Hernandez.
And how long, I mean, that's a big tank. Having gone down there and wandered around, I mean, that diver's gonna be there for more than a little bit, huh?
He'll be there all day. He'll be
Just
there
one
all-
day?
Well, he's hoping to do it in one day. Actually, I think he's pretty excited.
Good
I don't
swimmer,
think-
huh?
Yeah, he does this every day as a profession.
Oh,
So
he's got one of those little,
I don't know that he's been in one that large.
Yeah.
Is that Dan?
It's
that
Dan.
I-
understand he
Gross,
works for-
Diver Dan.
He works for Roto-Rooter.
Shower before you go?
They go in with a dry suit, actually, yeah. There's no body contact. They go into the dry suit, and he has a bleach solution poured over him before he
Oh,
goes
is it?
in. So he's completely disinfected. Yeah.
good.
But
Do our
he's-
staff assist him in that?
Pardon me?
Do we have staff that go out and assist him?
Oh, yeah, we have to have someone on site. for- Yeah,
Emergency.
at every entry, yeah, there's a staff on site. Yeah.
Thanks, Ed.
Thanks, Ed.
Thanks, Ed.
Okay, just a quick update on the locker room plans. We expect 90% plans to be in, I believe, at the end of this month. And then staff will review those plans, make any comments, send them back to the consultant, get the final plans prepared, and then we'll go forward and we'll advertise the project for construction. We'll probably stop by the engineering committee before we actually release for advertisement.
Do we leave any of the gold flaking, or we take it all out?
It's all off. Yes. The engineering committee will be the judge of how much.
We're gonna comb it hard.
perfect sense for that one to be under engineering.
And just a couple of committee meeting announcements. Next Monday on the 9th at 2 o'clock, there will be an engineering committee meeting. and they'll get updates on the solar project, the locker room project, groundwater project, and some update on some local development. And the policy committee will be meeting on Monday, October 16th at 3 o'clock, and they'll be talking about the 48-hour disconnect policies and practice, as well as the billing discrepancy policy or lack thereof.
Which committee is that?
That's the policy, and I forget the policy and personnel, and that's Director Hernandez and Director Evans on that one. And that's all I have.
Don't we have an F&I meeting,
I'm sorry?
finance meeting?
Well, we're working on that one on the, whatever date that was. It was the
26th,
26th at 4 o'clock. It didn't make my notes before the meeting.
On our engineering committee, could we get a set of plan update to whatever it is?
For the,
Engineering committee on the
For the locker
9th?
room?
Yeah, the locker room, yes.
yeah, okay.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
You won't have you won't have the 90% ones, they're not in until the end of this month, but you can get copies of what was
Yeah,
prepared
just,
before.
can you just ask him to send what he's got up to date?
George and I, we can try, but right now, we just authorized him about a week and a half ago after negotiating
Ah.
the change order. So he literally has started at the end of last week, so they probably have nothing at this point,
Okay.
I would imagine.
All right. Okay.
Thanks, James.
All right, thank you. District Legal Counsel.
Yes, in accordance with Director Martin's request for brevity, I have no report.
Thank you very much.
That makes Director Martin very happy.
Yeah.
Okay, San Diego County Water Authority, since Director Evans isn't here, we'll move on to Encina. Anything on capital?
We had our capital committee before we had the board meeting, so virtually the same, so there's nothing new to report.
Okay, I have nothing to report. We didn't, Policy and Finance for Encina hasn't met since our last board meeting. Okay, next, our standing committees. Have we had any since the last board meeting?
F&I hasn't met.
No,
We were supposed to, but we didn't.
Okay.
And you just heard when our next engineering and policy committee are.
Okay, on to director's reports on travel, conferences, and seminars. Director Sinella.
I have nothing to report.
Okay, Director Martin.
I do.
How was that?
At CASA, CSDA, I'm sorry, CSDA last week at Monterey, two of us attended. I was with El Presidente, so I could do no wrong. Many subjects covered, but building a district, strong principles of success was one I attended. I attended quite a few of these, actually. And we had two great speakers, motivational speakers as well. Full court press and media crash course, which I really enjoyed. I always do. Interesting how people think you deal with the media. Understanding special district investments. What is the trustee's fiduciary responsibility? That was very interesting. Had a lot of interesting notes, and being the current committee chair, very interesting questions to ask at that committee. Another one that one of our people out here would be very interested in knowing was one toke over the line, the growing specter of marijuana in the workplace.
Ooh.
That was very interesting.
Damn.
And very good to find out what's going on as far as legalities and that. And then it was Manley Feinberg. He gave he was one of the keynote speakers, Reaching Your Next Summit. Very entertaining, very interesting, I thought as well. Another one was Gender Identity in the Workplace, which was very interesting because of the new laws that took effect March 1st, which this building is not in compliance with. And I hope it certainly gets in compliance before that same guy, the retired guy, the attorney that goes around the wheelchair, finding people for wheelchair violations, will start finding people for the gender identity. Very simple.
Be another cottage industry
Yeah,
springing up.
yeah. Keep all the attorneys at work, see?
Okay.
Which person are you referring to there? The person
Gender
in the
identity in the
wheelchair?
workplace?
No, the fellow in the wheelchair.
Oh, it was the ADA.
The ADA guy that was
You're
going
thinking,
all
are
over?
you thinking of Ted Pinnock?
I think so, yes.
Yeah, he's no longer a member of the bar.
Okay. But he made a lot of money before he became.
Well, no dispute there. Those lawsuits were very difficult to prevail on if you were defending.
Yeah.
Well, the gender identity is gonna be the same thing, so it's interesting to note that we should not even be asking on our applications, check male or female, should not be asking that question, because that's asking them what someone has called them before. Because when at birth, the doctor calls you, the nurse checks off the box, male or female, that's the identity they're giving you, that may not be your true identity, until you're old enough to know your true identity, at least that's what the courts are saying. So it's very interesting, but the bathrooms, we need to have a gender bathroom, which really just, for instance, upstairs in our offices, it would take just changing the signs from men to women to the women's sign with the slash man, women's sign with the slash man. You gotta have one in every area, as easy to get to as the other ones. So rather than having to add a bathroom, you just call them unisex bathrooms. But a lot of those things, which I think, I said, March 1st, the laws went into effect. It was very interesting to hear some of the suits that are already being filed by people. And they're stacking up very quickly. Then effectively communicating financials and key questions board members should be asking. This is the one that was given by Kim Thorner. Again, effectively communicating financials and key questions board members should be asking. Very enlightening, very informative, and I really enjoyed it. The FPPC update on conflict of interest, which all these board members here should go to, because there's so many, it's unbelievable. And that was it, but it was a full day. The weather was also nice if you had the time to do it. And that was it, that's all I have to report. Everything else is already reported.
Sounds like a productive trip. All right.
Very productive trip.
I attended the same CSTA conference. I attended sessions on board best practices, CalPERS update, marijuana in the workplace, planning for the future through effective rate setting, communicating financial information, the one that Kim Thorner presented, and also attended a legislative update. And kind of the takeaway I got from the last session on the last day was we should do more public outreach as a special district to better explain to our constituents what special districts are and what they are, what they do, and why they are a very efficient form of government. It seems like that special districts are coming under constant attack from different groups, particularly the Little Hoover Commission that really wrongly attacked the special districts before they really had the right information. So it just shows to me that we should probably do some more public outreach. And the CSDA has a lot of materials available to kind of do that education effort. So I would recommend that we take advantage of that.
We hire a PR consultant or something.
We have a whole staff.
And speaking of that, I did attend the CASA committee meeting, and we were talking about just that. That's the video contest that we have, and we do it locally, then it goes on to the state. So it has been broadened. We're going to be having another committee meeting here, on the 12th, I believe is the date, but here in the next couple of weeks. So that's moving forward, and it's getting bigger and bigger every year. So that public outreach they're trying to do something.
Well, I'd just like to caution that group, that's a great idea, but if I remember, the video contest we had here had one person.
Oh, yeah, well, they had,
No, I'm just saying.
oh, yeah, no.
Locally, it was one person, because not everybody's equipped to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
And nor can we get the word out fast enough.
Well, getting the word out, that's going to be the big issue. But, I mean, I'm astounded at the high school level, and primarily I think we're going to be moving to maybe a two-tier, high school and middle school, eliminating the grade school. But some of those schools, holy mackerel, they're producing stuff that is Emmy quality. So, good stuff. And they're doing a great deal of outreach to get more applicants.
And I agree with you. I'd much rather see the high schools do it. I mean, we have third and fourth graders do coloring books. That's cute.
Man,
I don't know if that's worth our money.
All right. Other business, we have none. On to director's comments. Future agenda items. Director Hernandez.
No.
None for me. Director Burton.
No, I don't believe I have any.
Oh my gosh, let me write that down.
I think the ship is all going in the right
All
direction.
right, that's
I'm not gonna make any waves.
good. That's good news for everybody. Director Sinella.
Nope, nope, nothing to comment on.
All right. Well, I think we're out of agenda items, so we're adjourned.
Wow.